Welcome back to another video. This is the second video of this series, and my message for today is be yourself. Um, I will make a playlist for this series. I still haven't picked a name for it, but I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could be anyone for a day, who would you be? Now I want you to really think about it, really think about it. Most people would have said Elon Musk or their favorite celebrity. Maybe someone who's extremely successful, someone who's rich, someone famous, someone who seems to have everything figured out. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think the more interesting question is why? Why that person? What do you think they have that you don't? Is it the money? The freedom? The recognition? Or is it the feeling that if you could just live their life for a day, you'd finally understand what it feels like to be enough? Because that's something I think about a lot. How often do we look at someone else's life and think, if I had that, I'd be happy? You see someone driving a car you want, and you think you'd be happier. You see someone who's more attractive, and you think you'd be happier. You see someone who's more talented, more successful, more confident, and you think, if I could just become that person, even for a little while, I'd know what I'm missing. But what happens when you actually get there? What happens when you finally become that person? Would you finally be satisfied? Or would you just find someone else to compare yourself to? I think that's where the problem starts. The stress of never being enough doesn't begin when you're an adult. It begins much earlier. It begins the first time you believe your value has to be earned. Not through who you are, but through what you achieve. When I was younger, life wasn't measured in outcomes. I didn't care if I was the best at something. I just wanted to try it. I learned instruments because they sounded interesting, and I picked up hobbies because they made me curious. I wasn't thinking about whether they would benefit my future. I wasn't asking if they were worth the time. I just wanted to do them. I remember when I first learned the piano. It's been almost a decade, and I still remember the first warmth I felt playing it for someone. I remember the look on their faces when they saw a kid teaching himself an instrument that quickly. And I guess that's where something started developing in me. The need to please people. Not because I consciously thought I need everyone to like me. It was much simpler than that. People reacted positively when I was good at something. And I liked that feeling, so I kept doing it. But back then, I was simply living. I wasn't thinking about identity or self-worth or whether I was enough. I was just a kid trying things. Somewhere along the way, that changed though. The world slowly teaches you that being average isn't enough. School rewards grades. Social media rewards attention. Work rewards productivity. Even hobbies can become things you're supposed to monetize. And you don't notice it happening. You just slowly start changing the questions that you ask yourself. Instead of asking, do I enjoy this? You ask, am I good at this? Instead of, do I want this? you ask, will this make people respect me? And eventually, instead of asking who you want to become, you start asking what you need to be to feel valuable. Those aren't the same question. I became very familiar with that way of thinking. I started getting better at everything because I wanted to be better than everyone. I learned instruments because I wanted to be the most talented. I picked up hobbies because I wanted to be the most interesting. I looked for jokes because I wanted to be the funniest person in the room. I wanted to be the person who could walk into a room and never feel inferior to anyone there. And there was a reason for that. I felt left out for a long time. I wasn't athletic, so I wasn't the person people pick for sports. I was overweight, and that made me even more insecure. Some people thought I was weird. Some people simply didn't talk to me. And after enough of that, you start wondering what's wrong with you. So I tried to compensate. If I couldn't be athletic, I'd become talented. If I couldn't be popular, I'd become interesting. If I couldn't fit in, I'd become someone that people couldn't ignore. I thought that if I became impressive enough, people would finally see me differently. And maybe more importantly, I would see myself differently. But there was a problem. No matter how much I improved, there was always someone better. And that's when you realize something pretty uncomfortable. If you're chasing first place because you need to feel valuable, first place will never be enough. Because there's always another person. Someone stronger, someone smarter, someone funnier, someone more talented, someone richer, someone more attractive. You become the biggest fish in one pond, and then you discover there's a bigger pond, then another, then another. And you can spend your entire life swimming towards something that keeps moving away from you. Have you ever achieved something you worked incredibly hard for, only to enjoy it for a short amount of time before immediately thinking about what comes next? I have. And I think most people have, even if they don't realize it. You get the grade, then you want a better grade. You get the job, then you want a promotion. You get in shape, then you find someone who looks better. You become good at something, then you find someone who's better than you. The achievement wasn't fake. You really did accomplish something. But the satisfaction was never allowed to stay, because your mind had already moved the finish line. And honestly, it's exhausting. Every conversation you have becomes a comparison. Every mistake you make becomes evidence. Every successful person becomes a reminder of something you haven't accomplished. You stop looking at someone and thinking, that's impressive. You start thinking, why am I not there yet? Life becomes a scoreboard. But the funny thing is, no one told you to keep score. You did. And in fact, I did as well. And I think we do it because numbers make things feel simple. Grades, money, followers, muscle, job titles, achievements. You can look at a number and convince yourself it tells you something about your worth. But it doesn't. It tells you what you've measured. It doesn't tell you who you are. There are people with everything they've ever wanted who still feel like they're missing something. There are people who are incredibly talented who still think they're not good enough. There are people who everyone else looks up to, who go home and compare themselves to someone else. So maybe achievement isn't the solution to feeling inadequate. Maybe it never was. Because you can't solve a problem of self-worth with external proof. You can collect proof for the rest of your life. There will always be another standard, another person, another goal, another reason to tell yourself you're not there yet. At some point, you have to separate becoming better from proving that you're worth something. Those two things can look almost identical on paper, but internally they're completely different. If you're improving because you hate who you are, then every failure becomes personal. Every setback feels like confirmation. But if you're improving because you respect yourself, failure is just information. You can be unhappy with where you are without believing that you're worthless for being there. That's a distinction I didn't understand when I was younger. I thought I had to become better before I could accept myself. But working on yourself and hating on yourself are not the same thing. You can want more from yourself without believing that what you have now is worthless. You can want to be stronger without hating being weak. You can want to be more talented without being ashamed that you're still learning. You can want to succeed without making success the price of your self-respect. And maybe that's what being enough actually means. It doesn't mean you've finished. It doesn't mean you've won. And it doesn't mean you become the best person in the room. It means you can look at yourself honestly and still believe you're worth something while you continue to grow. Because there will always be someone ahead of you. There will always be another goal. There will always be another version of yourself that you could become. That's not a problem. That's life. The problem starts when you believe you aren't allowed to respect yourself until you get there. So if you could be anyone for a day, maybe the more important question isn't who you choose. Maybe it's why you wouldn't choose yourself. Because if the only reason you want to trade lives with someone else is because you believe their life would finally make you feel like enough, then maybe the person you need to become isn't them, it's you. And with that, I end my video. I want you to really think about what you've heard so far. And I want you to start taking action. I want you to do it for yourself and not to someone's expectation. Because if you try to meet someone's expectation, you find yourself constantly being stressed out. You realize that nothing you do truly pleases them, because there will always be a version of you that they expect, and you can never truly be happy if you base your success and your happiness off someone's satisfaction. And another thing is, don't just focus on the future, right? It's always important to live in the moment. Well, I'm not saying that you can't think about your future as you're in the moment now. I'm saying that you should be more alive. Enjoy your youth, enjoy what you have now, because who knows, maybe 5 to 10 years down the road, you're not gonna have this anymore, you're going to miss this. And the present is something a lot of people take for granted. Think of it as 5 years ago, maybe you were on a game with the boys or on a call with the love of your life, and then snap, just like that. It's gone now. And you keep replaying that memory in your head because you never truly got to appreciate what you had in the moment. So I hope that this leaves an impression on you to value what you truly have right now and don't get so worked up on being better if you aren't happy. And I guess that's it. That's all I really have. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.